Well, good evening. I'm Alan Jackson, and welcome to Nashville. President Trump certainly has a hard-working team, but no one has put in more hours than Tom Homan. Imagine the mission: finding and arresting and sometimes evicting as many as 20 million people. Some of them just wanted to come live in our country, and when the last administration opened the doors, they flooded in. But so did criminals, foreign terrorists, child traffickers, and drug runners. And it's not just the huge number of people who are wandering around the country. The United States also covers 3.8 million square miles, and that doesn't even include Alaska and Hawaii. The people we're looking for, they're not exactly standing on street corners with signs saying, "Hey, I'm an illegal, come get me." They're hiding, and many of them are armed. I saw Tom Homan on television recently at a White House event. He looked exhausted, but he stood up for a round of applause, and he spoke with great confidence about the mission to make America safe again. Listen to this.
We're taking public safety threats and national security threats off the street every single day. We got over 600,000 illegal aliens with criminal histories walking the streets of this country. We got less than 5,000 deportation officers. This should be a no-brainer. More agents means more bad guys arrested, taken off the streets of this country every single day. Every day we arrest a public safety threat or national security threat. This makes this country much safer.
Well, our guest tonight is a veteran of border issues. You've seen him here before. Ron Vitiello joined the Border Patrol in 1985, and now with more than 30 years of public service under his belt, he's the senior advisor to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Welcome back, Ron.
Thanks for inviting me.
You ran the Border Patrol long before Joe Biden and Kamala Harris opened the gates. It must have been a huge disappointment to see so much of the good work of you and your colleagues ruined by a White House that didn't care about crippling our country.
Yeah, it was terrible to see what they got left to, right? When in Trump won, we had the safest border until now than the country had ever seen. And then within weeks of the Biden presidency, it turned into complete chaos and stayed that way for most of his 4 years. And so I'm very grateful to be a part of the team now that's helping repair the damage that's been made, because there is a lot to do. We've done really well at the physical border. We've all seen the deportation efforts underway in the interior, and CBP is assisting with that as well. There is a lot to do, but we've been very successful to date because you have good leadership in the Oval Office, obviously, with President Trump. Kristi Noem is the Secretary of Homeland Security, and Tom Homan helping lead the charge in the interagency along with Stephen Miller. And it's just been wonderful to see how quickly we can accomplish things when everyone is moving in the same direction, as you said, on behalf of making America safe again.
Well, there is some good news to report today. The big, beautiful budget bill has finally made it to approval before the July 4th holiday. And it contains a good deal more money for the Border Patrol. Can you tell us what the most immediate needs are?
Well, there's going to be an effort at CBP, both on the customs mission side, immigration side, and in the border security side for hiring. So thousands of new CBP officers and Border Patrol agents, more barrier access and technology to help the agents do their jobs more appropriately, safer on the southwest border. Some investments also on the northern border with our friends in Canada. So, immediate increases in capability, including infrastructure. The wall is very effective. It provides an anchor for the men and women to do the patrols and surveil the border. But it is quite expensive, especially when you add the technology on top of it. So we're very eager that Congress has prevailed to get this thing over the finish line. We understand the president's going to sign it, and we're going to implement based on the attributes of his campaign, which are now the plans that are underway at our border and in the interior as it relates to making the border safe and then having the deportation efforts in the interior. I worked in the interior for a very short time as an agent in the patrol, and we made lots of arrests because there are a lot of people in big cities where we worked making arrests in those locations. It was very active. But back in those days, when you sent somebody back across the border, they could come back relatively easily. That's not the case now. Now it's very difficult to cross the border. Those that are apprehended are likely to be prosecuted in federal court and are all being removed fairly quickly. So the traffic is down for a lot of reasons, the physical presence at the border and the increased capability, but the consequences are also very high.
Well, recently there were reports of the arrest of about a dozen Iranians in this country, right after the U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. One of those arrested admitted to being a member of the Hezbollah terror group. I'm guessing that there's no way to know, but do you have any idea how big a threat we face from other terrorists that are already here?
Well, this is a constant threat that the American public needs to be aware of. You know, we had a 4-year presidency where almost anybody that could had enough energy to make it to the southwest border could walk into the country. Many of them were released in the United States. Since the attack on Iran, since the hostilities started with Iran, we've caught over 100 people from that part of the world. During the 4 years of the Biden administration, 1,500 plus individuals came into the country and were apprehended and self-admitted that they were from that part of the world. More than half of them were released into the United States. And so that threat exists. They're at the top of the list for the deportation efforts across the country. And so we're going to continue to look for those threats to public safety that are also in the country illegally. We're going to seek them out and take them into custody as we have been doing.
Well, despite the well-known threats, some big city mayors have been fighting the deportations, and they come right out and brag about it. Listen to the Los Angeles mayor.
I was trying to make the case that the National Guard was not needed here. I was trying to make the case that if the National Guard came here, it would be a provocative move, and it would be like a deliberate attempt to create disorder and chaos in our city.
Los Angeles was already suffering from chaos and destruction. Do you have any idea what she's talking about?
It's fairly ridiculous to hear someone who's responsible for the safety and security of the city of Los Angeles talking about how well-trained, dedicated soldiers of the National Guard somehow promote chaos in the second largest city in the United States. It's ridiculous. What she needs to understand is that what those guardsmen are doing is protecting the federal space, the federal buildings in Los Angeles, which she should be protecting alongside them with. And the men and women of the front line who are in Los Angeles to execute on the largest deportation effort ever. Again, that is current immigration law. If you're in the country uninvited, uninspected, and have crossed the border illegally, you're subject to being arrested and removed from the United States. That's all the front line is doing down there. People want to call this, some kind of hyperbole. It's designed to sow chaos or hate. No, this is the enforcement of the law. These laws have been on the books for decades. And people like her that want to tear down the individuals who are actually helping keep the city safe need to look in the mirror and find out what exactly they're trying to do for this country and their cities themselves.
Well, Ron, please stay for another segment. I've got several more questions for you. And during the break, I'd like to ask you to plug into our new website, ajnow.com. Take a look. If you want to send your thoughts about the immigration mess, there's an easy link to send an email. We'll have Mr. Vitiello back again, and we can pose your questions to him. I'll be right back. We're back now with the senior advisor to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Ron Vitiello. It's the largest law enforcement agency within the Department of Homeland Security. I know President Trump wants to round up as many people as possible each week, but is it true that for now authorities are starting with finding the most dangerous gang members and other criminals?
Absolutely. There's a priority list. We talked earlier about the folks that are here from Iran that we know are here illegally and that were released at our border by the previous administration. So the focus has shifted in a way that they've moved up to the top of the list. But individuals that are in the country illegally have also committed heinous crimes all over the country. Los Angeles is just one of the cities in which this high-profile operation is underway. But it's also important to talk about the other people that are going to be found. ICE uses a prioritized list to find people in the United States. When they find them, they're often with other people who are out of status as well. And under this administration, like in Trump 1.0, they won't be exempt immigration enforcement. So if criminals are hiding amongst the populace or they're present in places where other people are in the country illegally, those other folks that are alongside them will be arrested as well, and they'll be put in the system on a path to removal.
Well, the polling shows that even recent immigrants are backing the removal of those who are here illegally. I know you're a lot closer to this than I am, so tell us where that's coming from.
Well, people who come through the legal process, many of us in America have an immigration story. My dad's parents came here in the 1920s. My mom was born in Lithuania. So people that go through that process and swear an oath to become a U.S. citizen or matriculate to green card status, permanent residence in the United States, they make a sacrifice. They make a commitment to being in the United States, and they follow the rules. They take all the tests. They swear an oath. They pay all the fees. And it's not a trivial process. And so those recent immigrants or the first generation of immigrants in the United States recognize that there are rules to follow, and those are to the benefit of the country. And so we want them to assimilate. We want them to feel welcome. We want them to do it the legal way. And when people go through that process, they're less apt to let somebody just walk across the border and identify as someone that belongs in the U.S.
Well, by all accounts, we have a border again. Hats off to you and your colleagues. I remember seeing that Biden not only stopped building the wall, but he tried to sell parts of the wall that never went up for scrap metal till he was stopped. Am I correct that the parts Biden didn't finish are going to get built across these next few months and maybe years if it takes it?
Right. So in the transition, there were monies left over from the first Trump administration, about $1 billion. And so that is being deployed now on behalf of physical border security at the line now. So about 6 new miles of wall have been built using those funds. And then we've had tremendous help from the Department of Defense, who have helped us gain better access to the border, smooth out that access, if you will, and helped fortify the walls that exists. So about 115 new miles of barrier that are preventing people from entering the United States. And so that investment, the taxpayers already put a marker down for that $1 billion. We're going to deploy it now. And then, as we talked about, the bill that's being passed and signed tomorrow will give us enormous resources to add about 700 new miles of wall where the Border Patrol says they need it the most along the southwest border. And again, like we talked, this is sort of that demarcation of the border. It's an anchor for all the things that patrol agents have to do on the line, and it's a good anchor for the tech as well. So increased vigilance, increased presence with a barrier to stop or slow people down will make a real difference over the long term.
Well, I understand you've also got electronic surveillance and technology that help you maintain that border. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's right. Cameras that can see both during the day and at night, sensors that allow us to understand if someone's climbing the wall or digging under it. And so those are the kind of things that shorten the information loop, if you will, so agents know that something is going on. They know to be in the right place at the right time. So the tech makes a big difference. Again, it's very expensive, but you're talking about the sovereignty and the protection of the United States. It's worth it to keep them safer. And over the long term, it's a great investment to protect the country.
Well, before we run out of time, give us your best advice on how we should handle those people who are here illegally, but they work seasonally on farms, small businesses. They take work that other people aren't so anxious to do. Should we make exceptions for them? And if so, can they be tracked in a responsible way?
All of us have great compassion for people who've left what they used to call home to come to America to find their dreams. There is a right way and a wrong way to do it. And so those people that are here illegally that wish for an opportunity in the future can go on the CBP Home app. They can identify themselves and request assistance with a travel document to return home or travel assistance to return home. If they go through the process and verify their departure, they can be given $1,000 as an incentive for them to self-report. And so, again, having compassion for the situation that they're in and recognizing that they have an opportunity not to get a knock on the door, not to be arrested at large. They have an opportunity to go home on their own terms. And then in the future, they'll still be eligible for maybe a work program or some other way to come back to the United States in a legal status. And so we encourage people to do that the best they can, go to CBP Home.
Well, Ron Vitiello, thank you for you and your team for sharing your wisdom with us tonight. Please stay in touch as the months progress.
Thank you.
When I come back, some thoughts of my own and how to move forward. There's hope, I promise. Americans across the country will gather to celebrate the birth of our nation. There'll be parades, fireworks, music, cookouts. But let's not miss the real reason we celebrate. We're not simply celebrating independence from a foreign power. We're celebrating the birth of a nation built on a bold idea that freedom comes from God, not from government. The Declaration of Independence put it in writing. All men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. The Founding Fathers turned to Scripture for guidance. They believed in truth, justice, moral order. The values found in our founding documents, they weren't pulled from thin air, they were drawn from Scripture. The Ten Commandments still hang in courtrooms across this nation because the very idea of right and wrong was baked into the American experiment from day one. I'd suggest to you that when culture departs from biblical framework, we leave ourselves very vulnerable. I want to submit to you that our nation is being looted. Our wealth, our strength, our opportunities, our futures are being diminished. Regarding illegal immigration at the expense of American taxpayers, illegal is the key word. You and I would go to prison for making illegal withdrawals from the bank. It's called stealing. When people illegally come into our country and consume our services, education, healthcare, social services, they're overwhelming our system illegally. I would submit to you that citizenship is a privilege, it's not a right, and that the church of all places cannot afford to lose the distinction between legal and illegal. The looting of our nations, it's not a political issue. And sadly, I think Christians have hidden from the discussion. Will we have the courage to speak up for a biblical worldview, or will we stay silent in fear? We come back, we're going to be reading your emails. Hey, just a quick reminder that if you miss a live broadcast, you can always go to ajnow.com and catch the show. There's an archive there of every program. Makes it easy to share with a friend. The more, the merrier. Thank you for your emails. They're always a highlight. Flora in Virginia wrote, I was touched that you spoke about the immigrants and why our country is suffering from taking on the financial burden of millions of people. Thank you for your boldness in teaching. God bless you and your family. Flora, if each of us will take the truth and share it at our kitchen tables and our holiday tables with our friends, we can make a difference. Pat in Texas wrote, I struggle with politicians, especially libertarians who don't want America to support any countries other than America. How do we explain supporting Israel, God's chosen, even though we may not support a political Israel? I struggle finding the right words, especially to non-Christians or spiritually immature Christians. Well, Pat, it's not always a simple discussion. I don't believe we should blindly support the nation of Israel and their government any more than I think we just blindly follow any government. But I also think we have to understand that Israel is different. Not all nations are the same. God had made a covenant with the Jewish people. He's promised them a piece of land on this planet forever. It goes back to the book of Genesis, and it's carried right through into the New Testament. In the same way, we understand that to be God's people makes us different. The Bible says God's people are at the center of His purposes. It's not always easy to discern the right path. That's why we have to listen, pay attention, watch, and pray. Finally, David from Washington sent a quote. It's a little longer than we usually read, but on this day, I think it's worthwhile. He said it's a quote that every residing person in America should hear. In the first place, we should insist that if the immigrant who comes here in good faith becomes an American and assimilates himself or herself to us, they shall be treated on an exact equality with everyone else. For it's an outrage to discriminate against any such man or woman because of creed or birthplace or origin. But this is predicated upon the person's becoming in every facet an American and nothing but an American. There can be no divided allegiance here. Any individual who says they are an American but something else also isn't an American at all. We have room for but one flag, the American flag. We have room but for one language here, and that's the English language. We have room for but one sole loyalty, and that is loyalty to the American people. That's a quote from Teddy Roosevelt in 1907. It seems appropriate for today. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us on this very special day. I'm Alan Jackson, and I pray you have a wonderful evening.